Should there be a Royal Commission? Do you agree with Peter Credlin?
I think Victoria needs answers. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And what they need answers about is not just quarantining, but track and tracing. The Premier tells us that it's now world class, which is great, but he doesn't seem to have the confidence to back in his own decisions about he's got good track and tracing or testing and tracing. Why not move on October the 19th, this Sunday, to the next lifting of restrictions?
Do you think a Royal Commission would give the answers that the current inquiry would not?
I've been pretty disappointed by the current inquiry. It doesn't seem to me that we're getting the answers that we need.
So a Royal Commission would do that, do you think?
Well, I think we have to look at all sorts of opportunities to find out what the answers are, and a Victorian Royal Commission would help to understand that better.
OK. On the issue of numbers, right, so the Victorian numbers and New South Wales numbers are pretty much the same, have been similar for some time. Now, even on some days, Katie, Victoria has actually been less than New South Wales. That was the case 2 days ago, yet one of the states remains in lockdown. What is the feeling in your electorate at the moment?
Well, I'm in Canberra at the moment and I'm still getting hundreds of emails and phone calls of concern that the balance isn't right. And I think that's what Victorians want to see. The World Health Organisation has come out and said that lockdowns are in order to prepare the healthcare system. So we had lockdowns early in the COVID response after we'd introduced quarantining for our international borders. We locked down to prepare our healthcare system, which we've done as a nation. And you could say with the outbreak in Victoria, which is actually the first significant community transmission, so in some ways you could say that was the first wave here in Australia, we had to lock down Victoria in order to sort out the testing and tracing. Now, New South Wales has assisted Victoria. We know that there's been a lot done to the testing and tracing system, so it's now being digitalised. More resources have been thrown at it. Victoria has accepted offers from both federal and other states for assistance. We know that COVID Safe app is now being used to some extent, which is all good news. And we're now in the tail of the, what I would say is actually the first community outbreak in Australia. And we're in the tail, which could go for some months. Experts tell me that it could be 3 months before we get to, the less than 5 that Daniel Andrews has asked for. So I'm very keen for us to see the rolling average being at the National Cabinet agreed less than 10 rolling average for 14 days. We're there now. New South Wales is as well. Why aren't we opening up?
Yeah, I mean, you pointed out some of the things that are being talked about at the moment, but having said all that, do you believe that the Premier just quietly doesn't have any confidence in his contact tracing system to not swing it open now?
Well, he tells us it's world class. I think he needs to back his own argument that he's got a world-class testing and tracing. We know quarantining is our first line of defence. As a country, that line of defence has been what has kept this country safe. So the National Cabinet, led by the Prime Minister, informed by the Chief Medical Officer and the Minister for Health, have come up with an excellent strategy, which is quarantining to keep Australia safe with backup of testing and tracing. So we've got to do that in Victoria and we've got to now move forward.
It looks as though at this stage, Katie, that it's just going to be a limited easing of stage 4 restrictions. And at the moment, stage 4 restrictions applies to things like curfew and that 5-kilometre radius around your home that may well be increased to 20 kilometres. I mean, how far short would that be, in your view?
Well, I think the issue is that a lot of the things that have been imposed aren't really necessarily either evidence-based or expert-based. Curfews, for instance, they were introduced in Victoria for the first time in our history, and there isn't really much evidence that they are significantly necessary. I mean, we hear from Premier Andrews that might help him to police the state. What we actually need to do is have a look at what is COVID safe with regards to opening up and what is going to be a useful thing for businesses to get off their knees. You can see that retail and hospitality are really suffering and they are ready in a COVID safe way to open up. They've begged the Premier to look at their COVID safe plans. They've worked with health experts. The first time we opened up, they actually had COVID-safe plans that were put in place. Consumers and customers were very happy to follow suit. So we need to go back to that plan rather than simply opening up things that might include things that are important for people's mental health, but we also need business.
Yeah, I mean, you see on the front page of the Herald Sun today, some of Melbourne's most famous bars and pubs may not survive until Christmas. And this is the thing at the moment. And the confirmation will come on Sunday, obviously, but at the moment it's not really being talked about that hospitality will reopen again. It's just perhaps an easing of restrictions around social movements. So do you expect that there could be a lot of business failures, and particularly some of Melbourne's most famous pubs, restaurants, etc., like the Herald Sun reports today, won't survive in a couple of months?
I know that from the sector themselves. They've come to me, they've begged me, they've said, we know that 60% of our takings are in the last 8 weeks of the year. That 8 weeks starts October the 19th. They see this deadline as an incredibly important deadline to offer hope, offer a roadmap out that's hopeful, that's reasonable, that's balanced. We'd like it to start now, not wait to the less than 5 cases, which might be on the other side of Christmas.
Yeah.
And Victorians are really absolutely losing hope. And the second deadline he has of 0 cases, that's aiming for elimination. It isn't sensible, it's not reasonable and balanced, and it's driving too hard. We are going to have to learn to live with COVID. We've said that from the very start, a balanced approach that we are allowing citizens to get on with their lives and on with their businesses with good quarantining, good testing and tracing, and waiting for the vaccine, which may not be until the end of next year. That's a long way off. We need certainty about how to live with it now using a COVID-safe approach.
Yeah, we're seeing over and over again that elimination doesn't work, and we may well be seeing it again. Katie Allen, appreciate your time this morning. Liberal MP there, speaking to us live from Canberra. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.